What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Lolos and More. And today I'm going to show you guys what to look for when you're buying a lowrider. So this can pretty much be considered for any lowrider. I'm going to show you all the points of what to look for. So the first two things that you should do first is inspect the frame, especially when it's a lowrider on hydraulics. Inspect the frame completely and then move on to the motor, because the frame's fucked and you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the room, then for you it's not worth it to buy a lowrider. So my ride's all the way up right now. If you have multiple people with you checking out the car, make sure you disconnect the ground so nobody accidentally hits the switch down when you're under. But always use a jack for safety when you're under the car or truck, whatever you decide to buy. So the first thing what you want to do is inspect the welds. Make sure that they're good welds, and check that they're properly mounted. Some people just weld them straight to the axle, which is not that great. It's not that safe, and that means that cylinder is not sitting straight on that axle. But yeah. So if it has any reinforcements, make sure you check how good they're welded on and stuff like that. Check that first. And if see, I have leaf springs. Now the car that you might be getting might have a 4-link suspension, so you guys make sure you check the 4-link suspension, because you'll have 2 trailing arms connected to the top of the housing on the axle, and then you'll have another 2 trailing arms right where my leaf springs would be. And then what you want to do when you're looking at the trailing arms, you want to make sure that they're straight. So it's kind of hard to explain when I don't have one, but you want to make sure that they're straight. Okay, for here. So on a trailing arm, when they're mounted, this will be on the top. This part, let's see this U part right here. So you'll be looking at the top right here. So what you want, and then on a trailing arm, it's hollow at the bottom. There's nothing. It's like a U-shaped. When you're looking at the trailing arm, make sure that the seam on both ends are straight. If they're slightly bent, then someone's been, three-wheeling the car and stuff. So look for that. Next thing to look for is damaging to the frame. Right after the trailing arms, when people are doing three wheels on a non-reinforced frame, you'll usually get a buckle. You'll see like a dent on the frame. It'll look like a dent, but we call it buckling. The frame is buckling. That means that the frame is getting ruined. It's usually right after the trailing arm, so you'll want to look in this area for sure. Next thing you want to do is get under, kind of get down low and check that this frame is straight. If it's like slightly bent, like your high point is right here and the frame kind of bows down on the ends, then the frame is going south. So that's one thing to look for. The next thing to look for, which is what you'll need your jack for, is you want to get under your car. Get under your car. Not yours, but the car that you're buying. Get under it and look at the crossmember that's underneath the motor, where your motor would be mounted. So let's see. Thing you want to do is put your jack under it if it fits underwear. There we go. See, you want to look for any cracks next to the A-arm. If there's any cracks near there, then and it's not reinforced, and it's bad. And another area where cracks would show up will be usually in this area too, sometimes, but mainly they're always right where the trailing the A-arm, the bottom A-arms would be mounted to the frame. So look for cracks there, and then always inspect the underneath it. See how scratched up it is. If it's tore up, then you'll need to put a plate on there. But yeah, right there in that area, those where you want to really look for cracks. And the next spot to look for is, let me see, let me pop the hood so I can show some light through. Okay, so now back to what we're looking at. So on the car that you're probably looking at probably has ears, meaning that your not your wishbone, but the dog bone, that bar right there, on G bodies, they'll usually be mounted like this way. Mine are mounted straight down, as you can see. So instead of those bolts being up and down on your car, the car that you're probably looking at are sideways on the back, and it'll have ears where they're mounted on, and you want to check those ears if they're breaking off, cracking off. But mine are mounted down, so I don't have to look for any ears. And then you want to inspect your A-arms, that they're not cracked or bowing around this area. Same area right there too, just inspect them. So, and then if they're reinforced or not, just look for cracks. You usually see some cracks right next to the bolt, or you see cracks in this area on both sides. Next thing, and that's pretty much it. And then, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's the first crucial thing that you should look for when you're looking for a lowrider, when you want to buy a already done lowrider. So far it passes the test, right? Next thing to do is move on to the motor. First things first, when looking at a motor, check all the fluids, take the fluid cap off, see if it's topped off. Check your engine oil dipstick, take it out, look at it. You know, if it's brown, then they haven't changed the oil on it, or that because it's been sitting. It all depends. So your engine oil dipstick will either be black, yellow, very rarely I've seen them red. They'll either be in front of the motor, on the side of the motor, or on the opposite side in the same areas. And then you want to check your transmission dipstick. Mine is black, yours might be red. So pull it out, inspect it. Now transmission oil is supposed to look red/pink. If it's dark, a little darker, like a dark red or pink, then I suggest, you know, that the oil in the transmission will need to be replaced. So, and then look for any, I want to say, any shitty wiring, any, dang, I lost the word. Look for any jacked up wiring, like they tried and fix it themselves, motor wise. If it's just accessories you can rewire, that's easy. But look at motor wiring, the harness, or, you know, that's the computer. Make sure that it's not cut into and then fixed with butt connectors. Doesn't that mean there was a short somewhere and they cut it for some reason? I don't know. But look for that. Look for any shitty wiring for the motor. So once the fluid test passes, once you check all three fluids, also check the power steering fluid pump, that it's filled. check that also. And the next step would be to turn on the motor. Now it's kind of early where I live at, so I'm not going to turn on my motor. But anyways, noises that you want to look for in your motor is if the belt, once you turn it on, check if the belt squeaks. If the belt squeaks, it could be that it's just dirty. Let it run its cycle. There is such thing as belt conditioner, which keeps moisture, you can say, in the belt to keep it healthy and not keep it from, kind of keeps it from cracking. It'll last longer. I'm not saying it'll last a lifetime, but it'll last a bit longer. So check for continuous squeaking. But sometimes usually there's just dirt on all the pulleys and it'll run itself out. You can add just a little bit, a tad bit of WD-40, and then it'll help clear up the dust and debris, whatever it is on the pulleys. Next thing you want to check if the belt is super loose. If it's super loose, then either the tensioner is not doing its job, or the tensioner is, depending on, you know, how it is. Because in some cars, the alternator is your tensioner, where you gotta pull it back and then tighten the bolts. But on mine, I actually have a tensioner that I put a socket on, that one right there, and then move it, and I can get the belt off. But check if it's super loose and that tensioner's not doing a job, or whoever replaced the belt before probably did not tighten whatever tensioner it might have. Sometimes it'll be your alternator that will be your tensioner. So when you turn on the motor, another noise you want to look for is a knock sound. When you hear a knock, that can be a few things. It can be internal. It will be internal. It can be a rod that is slightly bent and is causing the piston to really ride on the cylinder walls, and you know, driving on that will ruin your motor. If you hear some slight ticks in this area, it's mainly normal because it's just the valves ticking. Because when you take your valve covers off, there is thousandths of an inch clearance between the rocker and the valve, right? There's thousandths of an inch, and you know, so there's space in between those two parts, and then you'll hear a ticking sound. So in a way, it's normal. But if that ticking is really, really loud, then they need to be adjusted. They're not that hard to adjust. Just go online, look for your specs, get a tool. It's a little spacer, has like little fins on it with different ratio sizes or whatever, and then you can tighten them yourself if you know how to do it. But yeah, the big noise that you really want to look for is that really big or really loud knock sound. So that's what to look for. And then while it's running, you want to make sure that the motor isn't shaking. If it's shaking, then it's probably running rough. So go ahead and smell the exhaust that's coming out of it, and look at the exhaust. Is it coming out blue? Is it coming out dark? Is it coming out gray? You know, look for those things. If it's running rough, look for that. But other thing would be if it's just shaking, either the motor mounts are bad. Mine is a little down there, but it's down there. Check your motor mounts. Before you turn on the car, you can grab a hold of the motor. If you can just slightly shake it, you know, and the rest of the car doesn't move, then those motor mounts are bad. So I would recommend that before you turn on the motor, so you don't burn yourself like a dumbass. So yeah, those are the big issues to look for with the motor. Now once it's running, go underneath the motor and check if it's leaking any fluids. Check that if it's leaking transmission or oil or coolant. So look for those things. So yeah, that would be it. Frame and then motor to look at next. Next thing would be take it on a drive, taking on a test drive. And then just feel the brakes, feel the steering, you know. Pretty much, a car should drive pretty smooth. Even a lowrider, it'll drive pretty smooth. Even if you have extended upper A-arms, it'll still drive smooth. But if you're driving it, and you're trying to go straight, and you're having to turn the steering wheel just to go straight, then there's something wrong. The alignment is off. It can be anything. It could be that the steering rods right here could be bent, or they're bad. It could be that the trailing arm, not the trailing arm, but the A-arms, control arms are bad. They're probably bent. But yeah, look for those things. If you're having to steer to one side just to go straight, then yeah, there's something wrong with the alignment. You have to get an alignment done, or check those steering rods. Like I said, they might be bent. Next thing would be look at the hydraulic setup. Now, see if there's a mess of wiring. Is it shitty, or is it decent, or is it clean? You know, inspect the pumps. Are they really, really old? Or are they not that old? Are the wiring done right? Or is it not done right? You know, just look for pretty much like a rat nest wiring. I just have my block up there just so I have easy access to it. I know it kind of looks ugly right there, but I don't care. I want to have easy access. But yeah, just look for a rat nest of wiring, because really wiring can be tucked really well and then shortened, and it can look really clean. So I wouldn't really complain or lower the price because of the hydraulics wiring looking all messy. You know, just I would look at that as a plus, because you get to work on your car and get to know what's what. But if you don't know wiring whatsoever, then that's up to you if you want to get the car or not. But if it works, if it ain't broke, I guess don't touch it. I don't know. But yeah. But yeah, that's it. Hydraulic wise, just look for messy wiring. And then depending on the price, inspect the interior. Look for any dash cracks on the dash, of course. Look for if there's any rips in your seat, you know, anywhere. Pretty much look for any missing interior pieces. Pretty much, right? And make sure all your gauges work. And then another thing to look for is mileage. It all varies by year. For example, my truck is a 93, and it has 219,000 miles on it. That's decent. You know, I did use this truck as a daily, even after I put the hydros on it. So that mileage is okay, you know. But it depends how much you really want to spend. Now, on any year car, really, you don't want to lowball the person, but you do want to lower the price if that mileage is over, I want to say over 240,000 miles. I do want to say lower the price, because who knows how much longer that motor has to last. If you don't have the money in the future or the time to replace it, or pay someone to replace your motor, then it's up to you. You know, if you're gonna use it as a daily and it's already at 210 plus, then I don't recommend really dailying it. Just cruise it every weekend. So that's what I recommend. But yeah, look at the interior. So, and also depending on price, look at the body. Look at the paint. Is it chipping? Does the body have missing pieces? Does the body have really big dents or deep scratches in the paint? Look at that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for inspecting the car. Also check your tires. Of course, check your tires. Don't mind the dirty white walls. I just put these rims on last night, so don't judge me, people. I'm about keeping white walls clean. So as you guys can see, I got new rims. I got these off of the parts car that I bought a while ago. That was a lowrider. I took the hydros off. I took the rims off, and I got rid of the car because I don't buy built lowriders. I just don't. I'd rather build them myself. But yeah, don't mind the dirty white walls. I just put these on yesterday. I just got the tires on, so I'm gonna go clean them today because I am going to the car show this morning. But yeah, that's really it. Those are all the key points in looking, what to look for in a lowrider when you're buying it. But it all depends on price. If the price is under, I want to say $2,500, then I should say don't really complain about the paint and body. Don't really complain about the interior. That's up to you. Well, you know what? You want to have a decent interior. So, if, you know, you can always say, you know, it needs paint and body. Can you just, you know, ask what's your the lowest you can go on the vehicle. That's all you can really do. Just be nice. Don't be an ass, because if you're an ass, then they're gonna say, well, you know what, I'm not in a hurry to sell. And then that's pretty much them saying, well, you know, I'm not gonna drop the price that low, so you can go F yourself. So those are key points. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. If you guys like the video, please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribe, people, subscribe. That'll motivate me more to upload more videos on how-tos and stuff like that. So I'm gonna head out. I need to get ready for the car show. So like, comment, subscribe, and peace.